The council chamber floated in the darkness of space, a massive ring structure that housed the last hope of three dying civilizations. 12 years of war had brought the Galactic Council to its knees, and today's emergency session carried the weight of potential extinction. Ambassador Kelvin of the Velnari stood before the holographic display, his 6 eyes reflecting the red zones that now covered most of the map. The Kresh Dominion had taken another system, their 14th victory in as many months, and the bodies of 3 million Quatar colonists now drifted in the void. "We are losing," Kelvin said, his translator box converting his clicking mandibles into words the others could understand. His species had evolved from herd animals, peaceful grazers who had reached the stars through cooperation and shared knowledge. And now they watched their worlds burn. General Vex of the Drexy slammed his massive fist against the table, cracking the surface. His kind were the warriors of the council, 7 feet of muscle and honor-bound fury. But even their legendary combat skills meant nothing against the endless waves of Kresh ships. "We need allies," Vex growled. "Our forces are stretched across 40 systems. We cannot hold them all." The third member of the council, High Scientist Quora of the Quatar, manipulated her data streams with precise tentacle movements. Her people had created most of the technology that kept the council competitive. But even their innovations could not match the Kresh's biological adaptations. "There are no allies left," Quora said, a voice carrying a harmonic sadness. "Every species within reach has either joined the council or been consumed by the Dominion." Kelvin's primary eyes dimmed, a sign of deep thought among his people. There was one possibility, one species they had not yet approached. But the very idea filled him with conflicting emotions. "What about the humans?" he asked. And the chamber fell silent. Vex snorted, a sound like grinding stone. "The newcomers? They have been watching from their system for 50 years and have done nothing. They refused our invitation to join the council. They trade with us but keep their distance. What help could they possibly offer?" Quora's tentacles twitched with uncertainty. "Their technology appears primitive by our standards. Their ships are slow. Their worlds are few. They number perhaps 30 billion across their colonies, a fraction of our population. Yet they survived," Kelvin said quietly. "Their world is what we classify as a Class 12 death world. Nothing that hostile should have produced intelligent life, let alone spacefaring civilization." The holographic display shifted to show Earth, a blue and green sphere wrapped in white clouds to most species in the galaxy. Such a world would be a nightmare of predators, diseases, and extreme weather. Yet humans had not only survived, but thrived. "I have studied their history," Kelvin continued, his voice taking on a strange tone. "They have been at war for their entire recorded existence. Their advancement came not through cooperation like ours, but through conflict. They developed space travel while still fighting among themselves." Vex leaned forward, suddenly interested. "Warriors, then?" "Not like your warriors," Kelvin said. "Your people fight with honor codes and single combat traditions. Humans fight to win by any means necessary. In their last global conflict 300 years ago, they killed 100 million of their own kind before achieving peace. The number hung in the air like a physical weight, 100 million dead, from a single war among their own species. The concept was almost incomprehensible to species that had evolved past such violence. Before reaching the stars, Quora's tentacles curled inward, a protective gesture. "You were saying we should ask predators to join a war? What happens when they turn on us?" "We are dying," Kelvin said simply. "In 1 year, perhaps 2, the Kresh will have consumed everything we are. Our children will be biomass in their breeding pools. Our culture will be erased from the universe. Is the risk of asking humans for help greater than the certainty of extinction?" The chamber filled with uncomfortable silence. Outside the windows, stars glittered peacefully. Indifferent to the struggles of the species that orbited them, Thex stood, his massive frame blocking the starlight. I will go. If they are warriors, I will speak their language. If they refuse, I will return, and we will die with honor. I will accompany you. Quora said, if their technology is unusual, I wish to understand it. Kelvin nodded slowly. Then I will guide the delegation. I have spoken with their diplomats before. They are strange creatures, polite but distant, as if they are always watching and calculating. The decision made. The 3 ambassadors departed the council chamber behind them. The holographic display continued to show the war's progress. Red zones spreading like infection. Across the galactic map the human system designated. Sol appeared on their sensors. 3 weeks later, what the ambassadors saw made them question everything they thought they knew about the newcomers. The asteroid belt between Mars and Jupiter had been transformed into a defensive network that dwarfed anything in Council. Space thousands of platforms bristled with weapons, each one capable of destroying a warship. Automated factories processed raw materials into more defenses. Patrol ships moved imperfect. Coordination along predetermined routes. Mars itself glowed, red not from rust, but from the heat. Exhaust of underground facilities. The entire planet had been converted into a fortress world, covered in launch bays and weapon systems. This is madness, Quora whispered. Why would any species militarize to this degree? Who are they defending against? Their ship received a hail before Kelvin could respond. The face that appeared on the screen was distinctly human, with forward-facing predator eyes, an expression that revealed nothing. This is Captain Rodriguez of the Sol System, Defense Force. State your purpose, or you will be escorted out of the system. Kelvin stepped forward. We are the Galactic Council delegation. We request emergency audience with the United Earth Command regarding the crash situation. A pause. Then Rodriguez nodded. You will be escorted to Earth. Do not deviate from the approved flight path. Any variance will be treated as hostile action. 6 human warships surrounded their vessel, weapons charged and tracking. Dex noted with professional appreciation that the human ships moved like predators, always maintaining optimal firing positions. Earth grew larger in their viewports. Beautiful and terrible orbital platforms ringed the planet in layers, each one a fortress unto itself. Defense satellites numbered in the tens of thousands. The moon bristled with railgun batteries pointed outward at the stars. They are not afraid of invasion, Dex said quietly. They are expecting it. The delegation landed at an underground facility hidden beneath a mountain. Range human soldiers in powered armor escorted them through corridors lined with weapons and ammunition stockpiles until they reached a war room deep in the planets. Crust Admiral Marcus Chun waited for them there. Surrounded by holographic displays showing Earth's defenses, the humans' dark eyes studied each ambassador in turn, cataloging weaknesses and strengths with a predator's assessment. Welcome to Earth, Chun said. Now tell me why we should risk human lives in your war. Kelvin took a breath and began explaining the crash threat as he spoke. He watched the human officers exchange glances that carried meanings he could not interpret, and he wondered if asking Earth for help had been a terrible mistake. Admiral Chun listened to Kelvin's presentation in silence. His fingers steepled beneath his chin. The holographic display showed crash ship movements, casualty reports, and tactical data that painted a grim picture of the Council's military situation. When the ambassador finished speaking, Chun turned to his staff officers. Analysis? Commander Parks stepped forward, manipulating the holographic data with practiced ease. The crash fight like a swarm species with regenerative biotechnology. Their tactics prioritize overwhelming numbers over strategic positioning. They accept casualty ratios that would break any normal military force. Weaknesses? Chun asked. His tone carried no emotion, just the clinical detachment of a professional assessing a problem. Their hive mind structure creates predictable patterns. Park continued. They have never adapted their tactics in 12 years of warfare. They simply throw more ships at defensive positions until they break through. Furthermore, their biological ships have centralized biocores that, if destroyed, cause total ship failure. Chun nodded slowly, then turned back to the delegation. You have shown us your enemy. Now I will show you something. The Admiral gestured, and the display changed. Dex felt his warrior's instincts scream warnings as he watched human military deployments unfold before him. Earth maintained 12 full combat fleets, each one containing thousands of warships. Mars held another 8 fleets in reserve. The orbital shipyards around Jupiter produced 2 new warships per day. Humanity's colonies from Mercury to Neptune all maintained independent defense forces. We have been preparing, Chem said simply. Humanity has known about the galactic community for 50 years. And in that time, we have never stopped building, training, and planning for the day when war would come to our doorstep. Cora's tentacles trembled. Why? The galaxy had been at peace for 3 centuries before the crash emerged. Why would you assume war was inevitable? Chun's expression hardened. Because humanity has never known prolonged peace. We have fought each other for 10,000 years. We have studied warfare the way your people study science. It is woven into our culture, our history, our very nature. The Admiral pulled up images of Earth's history, battlefields covered in bodies, cities reduced to rubble, weapons of such horrific power they could sterilize entire continents. The delegation watched in growing horror as humanity's violent past played out before them. We nearly destroyed ourselves 3 times, Chun said. Nuclear war, biological plagues, environmental collapse. Each time we pulled back from the brink. But the lesson was learned. Prepare for the worst, hope for the best, but never be caught defenseless. Kelvin found his voice. Are you saying you will help us? I am saying we will consider it, Chun replied. But understand this. If humanity goes to war, we do not follow your rules. We have reviewed the Council's military doctrine, and frankly, we find it inefficient. Dex bristled at the insult. My people have fought with honor for. Honor does not win wars. Chun interrupted, his voice cold. Victory wins wars. Dead enemies cannot regroup. Destroyed ships cannot return to fight another day. We do not take prisoners from species that practice extermination. We do not show mercy to those who show none. The room fell silent. The delegation was beginning to understand what they had unleashed by coming here. Chun continued. If we engage the crash, we will destroy them utterly. There will be no negotiated peace, no honorable surrender, no prisoners exchanged. We will hunt every ship, bomb every breeding world, and ensure they never threaten anyone again. Cora spoke carefully. That sounds like genocide. It sounds like survival, Chun countered. You have been fighting the crash for 12 years with your limited warfare doctrines, and you are losing. They do not negotiate. They do not compromise. They consume everything in their path. The only way to stop an enemy like that is complete destruction. The humans' logic was brutal, but undeniable. The Council had tried diplomacy, limited engagements, defensive warfare, and every other civilized approach to conflict. And all had failed. What are your terms? Kelvin asked quietly. He had come too far to turn back. Chun pulled up a document. First, we will send 1 fleet, our 3rd expeditionary force, to engage the crash in your territory. Second, during combat operations, human forces answer only to human command. Third, any Council observers aboard human ships will follow our orders without question. Fourth, we expect full intelligence sharing on crash positions and capabilities. And in return? Cora asked, what do you want from us? Full council membership for humanity, Chun said. A permanent seat at the decision table. Trade access to all council markets. And a mutual defense pact that protects human colonies as it does yours. The X considered this. The terms were reasonable, almost suspiciously so. Why the Third Fleet? The Drexy warrior asked, why not your best forces? Chun's lips quirked in something that might have been a smile. The Third Fleet specializes in deep space combat, against numerical superiority. They are perfectly suited for this mission. What he did not say, but what Dex understood in that moment, was that the Third Fleet was not humanity's best. It was simply adequate for the job, which somehow made the entire situation more terrifying. I accept your terms on behalf of the Council, Kelvin said. Knowing he was likely sentencing himself to historical infamy, he was the ambassador who brought human warfare to the galaxy. Chun nodded once. Then we will prepare to deploy. Captain Sarah Chun will command the Third Fleet. She is one of our most experienced combat officers. You may observe from her flagship if you wish. The delegation watched from an observation deck as humanity prepared for war. Shipyards across the Sol system came alive with activity. Warships emerged from hidden facilities that the Council's sensors had never detected. Entire asteroid bases revealed themselves as military installations. The Third Fleet assembled near Mars over the course of 5 days. 300 warships, each one designed with a singular purpose: to kill efficiently and survive long enough to kill a gang. Cora had managed to scan one of the human destroyers. What she found disturbed her at a fundamental level. The ship carried no science labs, no diplomatic facilities, no trade cargo space. Every cubic meter was dedicated to weapons, armor, engines, or crew quarters. It was a machine built purely for war. They are not explorers, she whispered to Kelvin. These ships exist only to destroy. I do not think humanity ever intended to join the galactic community peacefully. Kelvin watched a massive battleship, the UES Indomitable, take position at the fleet's center. Perhaps they simply understand what we refuse to accept. The universe is not a safe place. And wishful thinking does not stop existential threats. Captain Sarah Chun's voice came over the communication channel. Council delegation, you are cleared to board the Indomitable. We depart in 6 hours. The ambassadors took a shuttle to the human flagship. What they found inside confirmed their worst fears. The crew moved with military precision, every action practiced and efficient. Weapons were checked and rechecked. Combat drills ran continuously. These were not explorers playing at war. They were soldiers who had trained their entire lives for this moment. Captain Chun met them in the observation deck. She was younger than they expected. Perhaps 40 in human years, with scars on her hands that spoke of combat experience. Welcome aboard, she said. I understand you will be observing our operations. Yes, Kelvin replied. We must report back to the Council on your methods. Chun's expression was unreadable. Then you will see exactly how humanity wages war. I suggest you prepare yourselves. What we are about to do will not be comfortable to watch. She turned to leave, then paused. One more thing. When we engage the crash, do not interfere. Do not suggest tactics. Do not question orders. Human lives will be at stake, and I will not risk them to satisfy your curiosity or moral sensibilities. The captain walked away, leaving the delegation alone with their thoughts outside the viewport. The Third Fleet completed its formations. 300 warships ready to bring human warfare to an unsuspecting enemy in 6 hours. The Kresh Dominion would learn what humanity's ancestors had always known. When predators go to war, everyone else should step aside. The Third Fleet departed Sol System in perfect formation. 300 warships accelerating toward the conflict zone that lay 17 light-years away. On the bridge of the Indomitable, Captain Sarah Chun studied tactical displays while her crew worked in practiced silence. Kelvin watched from the observation deck, his multiple eyes tracking the efficiency of human operations. Every crew member knew their role. Every action served a purpose. There was no wasted movement, no unnecessary communication. They functioned like a single organism despite being individuals. Your people are very disciplined, the Volnari ambassador said to Commander Park, who had been assigned as their liaison. Park nodded. Military service is voluntary but respected. Those who serve train constantly. Captain Chun has commanded this ship for 8 years and has run combat drills every week, even during peacetime. Her crew could fight this ship blind if necessary. Vex approached, his warrior instincts fascinated by the human warship. I have studied your weapon systems. They seem crude compared to Council energy weapons. Why do you rely so heavily on kinetic projectiles? Because they work, Park replied. Energy weapons are effective, but require massive power generation. Kinetic weapons are simple, reliable, and deadly. A tungsten rod traveling at 0.8 light speed does not care about shields or armor. It simply transfers energy into matter, and matter loses. The Drexy warrior considered this. His people fought with honor blades and plasma lances, weapons that required skill to wield. Human weapons seemed designed to remove skill from the equation. To make killing as efficient as possible, Captain Chun's voice came over the ship's intercom. All hands. We are receiving updated intelligence from Council scouts. Crash forces have engaged the colony world of Vaxel 4. Civilian casualties are estimated at 4 million and rising. We are increasing speed to maximum. Arrival in 36 hours. The ship lurched slightly as the engines pushed beyond their rated capacity. Cora's tentacles gripped the railing in alarm. Is it safe to push the engines this hard? She asked Park. Her people's ships were built with comfortable safety margins. Park's expression was grim. Safe is relative. 4 million beings are dying while we travel. Captain Chun will push every system to its limit to arrive faster. We can repair engines. We cannot resurrect the dead. The journey continued through the darkness between stars. The delegation observed the human cruise preparations with growing unease. Weapons crews practiced loading sequences until they could complete them in seconds. Fighter pilots reviewed attack patterns. Marines checked their combat armor with ritualistic precision on the second day. Kelvin found Captain Chun in the strategy room, studying holographic projections of the Kresh fleet. The human captain looked up as he entered. Ambassador, Chun acknowledged. Come to question our methods? To understand them, Kelvin replied. Your crew prepares for battle with an intensity I have never witnessed. Even the Drexy warriors show more levity before combat. Chun gestured at the display. The Kresh have 2,000 ships in the target zone. We have 300. Mathematically, we are outnumbered 6.7 to 1. That means every mistake we make costs more lives. There is no room for error, no tolerance for distraction. You sound confident despite the odds. Kelvin observed. His species valued humility in the face of overwhelming opposition. Confidence is not the same as arrogance. Chun said, I am confident because we have prepared. We have studied the Kresh for months. We have simulated this exact battle 300 times. We know their tactics, their weaknesses, their response patterns. The only variable is execution, and my crew does not fail. The captain pulled up a tactical schematic. The Kresh fight like a swarm. They surround and overwhelm through sheer numbers. But swarms are predictable. They cluster together for mutual support. That clustering is their weakness. Kelvin studied the projection. How so? Because clustered targets are easier to destroy in bulk. Chun replied, if they spread out, they would be more effective. But their hive mind mentality prevents that level of independent thinking. They will do exactly what they have done in every previous engagement. Mass their forces and push forward. We will use that against them." The ambassador felt a chill run through his body. Humans did not just fight. They analyzed, calculated, and exploited every weakness with cold precision. "Are you not concerned about your own casualties?" Kelvin asked. "Even with perfect tactics, you will lose ships and crew." Chun's eyes hardened. "Every death weighs on me, Ambassador. But my job is not to avoid casualties. It is to achieve victory at the lowest possible cost. If I hesitate, if I show mercy, more humans die. More Council civilians die. The Kresh do not stop. They do not negotiate. They must be destroyed completely, or they will return." The conversation ended there. Kelvin returned to the observation deck. Troubled by the human's logic that was both brutal and undeniable. 36 hours after departure, the Third Fleet arrived at the edge of the Vaxel system. What they found exceeded even the worst projections from Council intelligence. The Kresh Armada filled the tactical displays like a swarm of insects. 2,000 biological ships, each one a massive organism bred for war. They surrounded the colony world of Vaxel 4, systematically destroying orbital platforms while landing forces consumed everything below. Council forces were in full retreat. 36 warships, all that remained of the local defense fleet, were running for the edge of the system. Behind them, Vaxel 4 Bernadthex watched the display with growing rage. "We must help them." "The colony is lost," Captain Chen said flatly. 8 million civilians are already dead. We cannot save them. Attempting rescue would compromise our tactical position. So we do nothing? Thex demanded, his fists clenched. His warrior's honor rebelled against abandoning the helpless. "We avenge them," Chun replied. "Cora, scan the Kresh fleet composition. I want to know ship types, clustering patterns, and command vessel positions." The Quatar scientist worked her console with trembling tentacles. The fleet is organized in 7 main clusters. Largest concentration is around the planet. Secondary forces are pursuing Council ships. Tertiary forces are establishing a perimeter. She paused, her voice shaking. "Captain, they have a massive bioship at the center, 10 times the size of any other vessel. I believe it is the fleet command organism." "Confirmed," Park said from his station. "That matches the profile of a Kresh Hive queenship. It coordinates the entire fleet through biological signals." Chun leaned forward, her expression intense. "Range to the queenship?" 400,000 kilometers, Park replied. "Within maximum range of our railguns." "Good," Chun said. "They have not detected us yet. We dropped out of FTL behind their sensor perimeter. We have perhaps 10 minutes before they notice our presence." She activated the fleet-wide channel. "All ships, this is Chun. Weapons free on my mark. Primary target is the Hive Queen. Secondary targets are the command clusters. Tertiary targets are ships attempting to flee. No prisoners, no survivors, no mercy." Kelvin watched in horror as 300 human warships silently positioned themselves. The Kresh remained unaware, focused on their destruction of the colony below. "Captain," he said urgently, "should you not attempt communication? Offer surrender terms?" Chun turned to look at him, and in that moment the ambassador saw something ancient and predatory in her eyes. The Kresh have killed 8 million civilians in the last 48 hours. They have consumed 3 Council worlds. They practice extinction warfare. What terms would you have me offer them?" Kelvin had no answer. He had asked Earth for help, and now he would witness what that help truly meant. Captain Chun's voice cut through the bridge like a blade. "All ships, execute attack pattern Omega." The Third Fleet opened fire, and the galaxy changed forever. 300 human warships fired as one. The silence of space erupted with violence as railgun rounds accelerated to relativistic speeds. crossing 400,000 kilometers in seconds. The Crash Hive Queen never knew what killed it. Tungsten penetrators traveling at 80% of light speed struck the massive bioship with the force of nuclear weapons. The Queen's organic armor, designed to deflect energy weapons, simply vaporized under the kinetic impact. The bioship broke apart, its biological systems failing catastrophically. "Target destroyed," Commander Park reported, his voice clinical. "Crash fleet is experiencing command disruption." Kelvin stared at the display in shock. The largest ship in the Crash Armada had been destroyed in the opening salvo, before the enemy even knew they were under attack. Around the dying Queen, the swarm began to scatter, individual ships losing coordination as the hive mind fractured. "All ships, proceed to Phase 2, Captain Chun ordered. Break into hunter-killer groups. Execute search patterns Alpha through Gamma. Maintain communication discipline." The human fleet split into dozens of smaller formations, each one moving with predatory purpose. Dex watched as the UES Indomitable led a group of 6 destroyers toward a cluster of Crash biocruisers. "Incoming enemy fire," Park announced. "Crash are launching biomissiles and plasma bursts." The Indomitable's point defense systems activated. Hundreds of automated turrets tracked incoming projectiles with computer-assisted precision. Organic missiles were shredded by tungsten flechettes. Plasma bursts splashed harmlessly against layered armor designed to survive nuclear detonations. "Return fire," Chun said. "Target the biocores. Disable their regeneration." The Indomitable's main batteries, spoke magnetic accelerators, launched armor-piercing rounds that punched through Crash ships like a needle through flesh. The rounds were designed to fragment inside the target, shredding internal organs and destroying the biological cores that sustained the ship. Organisma Crash biocruiser exploded as its core ruptured. Fluid sprayed into space, freezing instantly. The ship convulsed once and died. 3 more died in the following seconds as human destroyers coordinated their fire with lethal efficiency. Cora monitored the battle from her console, her tentacles moving frantically across the displays. The Crash are attempting their standard regeneration tactics. "Damaged ships are pulling back to repair." "Not anymore," Park interrupted. "Human doctrine. Wounded enemy is priority target. We hit them again before they can recover." The scientist watched in horror as human ships pursued retreating Crash vessels. There was no honor in this, no respect for the wounded. DAMAGED ships were destroyed before their organic systems could repair. It was efficient, brutal, and completely merciless. Dex saw a different kind of warfare unfolding. His people fought duels, one warrior against another, proving their worth in single combat. Humans fought like pack hunters, coordinating attacks, exploiting weaknesses, overwhelming targets through superior tactics rather than individual prowess. Multiple Crash frigates attempting to flank. Park reported, "They are moving to encircle our position." Predicted maneuver. Chum said calmly, "Execute counter-flanking pattern. Launch fighters." The Indomitable's flight deck erupted with activity. 50 human fighter craft launched in rapid sequence, small ships barely larger than their pilots. They accelerated toward the flanking Crash with suicidal speed. Calvin watched as the fighters engaged. They moved like insects themselves, darting between Crash bioships, firing missiles at point-blank range before spinning away from return fire. They worked in pairs, one fighter drawing enemy attention while another attacked from an unexpected angle. A Crash biofrigate attempted to swat a fighter with its organic tendrils. The human pilot dodged impossibly, their small craft's engines pushing beyond safe limits. Their wingman fired a missile directly into the Crash ship's neural cluster. The bioship spasmed and died. Fighters are reporting 94% hit rate. Park said, 3 fighters lost to enemy fire. Chun acknowledged the report without emotion. Though Kelvin saw her jaw tighten slightly, 3 pilots dead in as many minutes, but she could not stop to mourn. The battle was not over across the system. Similar scenes played out. Human warships hunted crash vessels with methodical precision. The numerical advantage meant nothing when one side could predict every move. The crash fought, as they always had, swarming and overwhelming, but humans had studied them for months. Every tactic had been anticipated, every response calculated. Crash are attempting to regroup near the planet. Park reported 600 ships forming defensive cluster. Chun's expression showed satisfaction. Perfect. They are doing exactly what the simulations predicted. All ships converge on planetary orbit. Prepare for bombardment pattern Delta. Dex lean forward. What is bombardment pattern Delta? Park pulled up a schematic. We overwhelmed them with firepower. 300 ships firing simultaneously at a clustered target. They cannot dodge. They cannot defend. They simply die. The human fleet formed a sphere around the crash cluster. 600 bioships crowded together, seeking mutual protection in their traditional defensive formation. They did not realize they had gathered their own execution. All ships report ready, Park said. Waiting on your order. Captain, Chun studied the display one final time, calculating trajectories and timing. Then she gave the order that would be recorded in galactic history. Fire. 300 human warships unleashed Hell railgun rounds. Missiles, energy beams, plasma bolts, every weapon in humanity's arsenal fired at once. The concentrated barrage created a sphere of destruction. Around the crash cluster, bioships disintegrated under the onslaught. Organic armor proved useless against kinetic weapons moving faster than their biological sensors could track. Crash vessels that had survived years of council warfare died in seconds under human firepowered. The bombardment lasted 40 seconds when it ended. The crash cluster was gone, replaced by debris and frozen biological fluids. 600 ships destroyed in less than a minute. Cora's voice trembled. This is slaughter. This is war. Chung corrected. The crash chose extermination warfare. They created the rules. We are simply better at following them. The crash fleet, what remained of it, finally broke. The hive mind's coordination collapsed completely without the Queen. Individual ships fled in all directions, abandoning their formation and their mission. They are running. Dex observed. His warriors' training said to let defeated enemies flee with honor. Pursuit wings. Engage, Chun ordered. No survivors. Human ships peeled away from the main fleet. Fast destroyers and frigates accelerated after fleeing crash vessels. Fighters formed hunting packs. Every escaping bioship was tracked, targeted, and destroyed. Kelvin watched as a crash transport tried to reach faster than light speed. A human destroyer matched its acceleration, stayed with it through the jump, and destroyed it in the other star system. The humans were not content with victory. They wanted extinction. The battle continued for 47 minutes total when it ended. The tactical display showed what was once a crash armada reduced to floating debris. Final count, Park reported. 1,847 crash ships destroyed. 153 attempted escape. Pursuit wings report all fleeing vessels neutralized. Total enemy casualties, 100%. Chuman nodded. Human casualties? 23 ships damaged, 4 critically. 2 destroyers lost with all hands. 7 fighters did not return. Total casualties, 4,036 dead. 6,800 wounded. The captain's expression remained controlled, but her knuckles whitened as she gripped her command chair. 4,000 of her people dead. But they had destroyed an armada that had terrorized the galaxy for 12 years. Send recovery teams for survivors in damaged ships, she ordered. Medical teams prepare for wounded. Damage control assess repairs. And someone get me a casualty list. I want to know every name. Vex approached the captain, his warriors' respect genuine. You have won a great victory. Your people fought with skill and courage. We did what was necessary, Chun replied. The Crush came to this system to commit genocide. We stopped them. That is not victory. It is simply survival, outside the viewports. Council ships cautiously entered the system. They had expected to find devastation, perhaps the remains of a desperate last stand. Instead, they found the human fleet intact, surrounded by the wreckage of the most feared armada in the galaxy. The Council Commander's transmission came through. This is impossible. We monitored the battle. 2,000 Kresh ships are now debris, Chun interrupted. The Kresh threat in this sector is eliminated. Recommend your ships begin rescue operations on Vaxel 4. There may still be survivors below. She cut the transmission and turned to the delegation. Ambassador Kelvin, you wanted to observe human warfare. What is your assessment? The Velnari diplomat struggled to find words. What he had witnessed was beyond anything in his species' experience. Humans had not simply fought a battle. They had executed a calculated extermination with cold efficiency. You fight like nothing I have ever seen. Kelvin managed, without honor, without mercy, without hesitation. We fight to win, Chun replied. And now the galaxy knows what happens when humanity goes to war. The debris field that was once the Kresh Armada stretched across millions of kilometers. Human recovery teams moved through the wreckage with grim efficiency, searching for their own casualties while ensuring no Kresh survived to report back to their Dominion captain. Chun stood on the bridge of the Indomitable, reviewing casualty reports, 4,036 names. Each one a person who had trained under her command, who had trusted her leadership, who would never see home again. She memorized every name, as she always did after battle. Captain, Commander Park said quietly, Council fleet is requesting permission to approach. Chun looked up. Grant them access. They are allies now, whether they realize it or not. The Council ships arrived in formation. Their commanders, clearly shaken by what they had witnessed, Admiral Vex of the Drexy, contacted the Indomitable directly. His face appearing on the main view screen. Captain Chen, Vex began, his translator struggling with his emotional state. The Council requires a full report on your engagement with the Kresh forces. The report is simple, Chen replied. We arrived. We engaged. We destroyed them. The Kresh no longer threatened this sector. Vex's expression showed disbelief. You destroyed 2,000 warships with 300. Our analysts cannot explain how this is possible. Your analysts have never studied human military history, Chum said. We have been perfecting warfare for 10,000 years. The Kresh were skilled opponents, but they were predictable. Predictable enemies die. She transmitted the battle data to the Council fleet tactical recordings, sensor logs, casualty figures. Let them study it. Let them understand what humanity brought to their war. 3 days later, the Galactic Council convened an emergency session. Every species in the Alliance was represented, their holographic forms filling the chamber. The topic was singular. Humanity's display of military power. Ambassador Kelvin stood before the assembly, his report ready beside him. Vex and Quora waited to provide their perspectives. In the observation gallery, Captain Chan sat in her formal uniform, watching the proceedings with unreadable eyes. We asked humanity for help, Kelvin began, his voice echoing through the chamber, and they delivered beyond our expectations. The Kresh Armada that had terrorized our space for 12 years was destroyed in 47 minutes. Murmurs spread through the assembly. Some species expressed gratitude. Others voiced concern. A few showed outright fear. However, Kelvin continued, we must address what we witnessed. Human warfare is unlike anything in Council doctrine. They do not fight with honor codes. They do not offer quarter. They pursue total destruction of their enemies. Councillor Vran of the Quatar spoke up. Are we to celebrate genocide? The humans destroyed every Kresh ship. There were no survivors, no prisoners. This violates every principle of civilized warfare. Dex stepped forward, his massive frame dominating the space. With respect, Counselor, those principles nearly destroyed us. The Kresh do not accept surrender. They do not negotiate. They consume. The humans did what we could not. They stopped them permanently by becoming like them. Vran argued, we asked for allies, not executioners. Captain Chun stood, drawing every eye. Permission to address the council? The chamber fell silent. Kelvin nodded. Granting her the floor, Chen descended to the main platform. I understand your concerns. You see humanity's capacity for violence, and you fear us. That fear is wise. We are dangerous. Perhaps the most dangerous species you will encounter. She activated a holographic display, but understand why. This is Earth, our homeworld. 40% of species are predators. 60% of plants are toxic. Weather patterns that would destroy your colonies are Tuesday afternoon. We evolved on a world that tried to kill us every day. The display shifted to show human history, wars, plagues, disasters. The assembled species watched in horror as humanity's violent past unfolded. We fought each other because we had no other enemies. Chum continued. We developed weapons that could end all life on our planet. We came within minutes of using them multiple times. We learned warfare because failure meant extinction. She paused, letting the weight of that statement settle. You species evolved on gentle worlds. You reached the stars through cooperation and shared knowledge. You developed warfare late and only as a necessary evil. We respect that. But do not mistake our methods for cruelty. Chum pulled up casualty figures. 4,000 of my people died stopping the crash. 4,000 humans who volunteered to protect species they had never met, on worlds they will never see. We did not come here for glory or conquest. We came because you asked, and because letting innocents die was unacceptable. Councillor Vran spoke more carefully now, but the complete destruction was necessary. Chun finished. The Kresh practice extinction warfare. Leaving survivors means they return stronger. The only way to protect the Council is to eliminate the threat permanently. That is a hard truth, but it is truth. Cora raised a tentacle. Captain, our scientists analyzed your fleet composition. The 3rd Expeditionary Force was described as your smallest combat fleet. How many ships does humanity actually possess? Chen's expression remained neutral. Earth maintains 12 full fleets. Each colonial system has independent defense forces. I cannot provide exact numbers for security reasons. But I can say this. The 3rd Fleet represents approximately 4% of humanity's total military capacity. The number hit the assembly like a physical blow. 4%. Humanity had destroyed the Kresh with 4% of their forces. What could they do with 100%? Are we to live in fear? One counselor asked, what happens when humanity decides we are the enemy? Chen's voice hardened. Humanity does not seek conflict. We isolate ourselves precisely because we understand what we are capable of. But if you attack human colonies, if you threaten human civilians, if you force us to choose between your existence and ours, we will choose survival. Every time, she softened slightly. However, we also understand loyalty. Humanity protects its allies with the same ferocity we use against our enemies. Accept us into the Council, and you gain defenders who will never abandon you. Reject us, and you face the next crisis alone. The chamber erupted in debate. Species argued about the risks and benefits. Some wanted humanity expelled from galactic space. Others recognized the protection such powerful allies provided. The discussion raged for hours. Finally, Kelvin called for a vote. The question before the council: do we accept humanity as full members with all rights and privileges? The vote was close: fear versus pragmatism, idealism versus survival. In the end, survival won by a narrow margin. Humanity is accepted, Kelvin announced. Welcome to the Galactic Council, Captain Chen. 1 week later, the Kresh Dominion sent a formal communication to Council Space. It was the first time they had ever initiated contact. The message was simple: we withdraw our forces from Council territories. We request immediate negotiations. The war is over. The Kresh hive mind had never known fear before. They were apex predators, perfect organisms, destined to consume the galaxy. Then they encountered humanity, and for the first time in their species' existence, they understood what it meant to be prey. The Kresh negotiators arrived under flag of truce. They found themselves facing Captain Chen, who had been appointed as humanity's military representative to the council. You destroyed our fleet, the Kresh speaker said through their translator. How? Chen's reply was honest. We studied you. We understood you. We exploited your weaknesses. You fight like a swarm because your hive mind cannot conceive of independent tactics. That made you predictable. Predictable enemies lose. The Kresh negotiator made a sound that might have been distress. Will you now exterminate us as we plan to exterminate others? No, Chen said. Humanity does not seek genocide. We seek security. Withdraw from all council territories. Cease hostilities. Agree to monitor borders. Those are our terms. And if we refuse? The Kresh asked, will you hunt us to extinction? Chen's expression was cold. If you force us to, yes. Humanity can be merciful or merciless. The choice is yours. The Kresh accepted the terms. Their ships withdrew. The 12-year war ended not with grand battles or heroic sacrifices, but with the Kresh's first experience of overwhelming defeat 6 months later. The indomitable return to Earth. Captain Chen stood on the bridge as her homeworld grew larger in the viewport. She had left as a naval officer. She returned as the face of humanity to the galaxy. Admiral Marcus Chen waited at the landing facility. He embraced his daughter briefly before getting down to business. The council wants more human fleets deployed, he said. They feel safer with our ships in their space. Sarah shook her head. They should feel terrified. We showed them what human warfare looks like, and now they want more of it. They don't understand what they have invited into their worlds. Do you regret it? Marcus asked, bringing humanity out of isolation? Sarah considered the question. She thought of the 4,000 names on her casualty list, the Kresh ships destroyed. The fear in Kelvin's eyes when he watched humans fight. No, she finally said, the galaxy is not safe. The Kresh proved that. Better we are here, with allies we can protect, than isolated when the next threat emerges. And if those allies turn on us? Marcus asked, if they decide humanity is too dangerous to exist? Sarah's expression hardened. Then they will learn the same lesson the Kresh learned. Humans can be your greatest